Well, how do you press on when facing a lack of regret from someone who wronged you and had power over what should have been good for you? In the case of Rick Moore, he took that case all the way to the Supreme Court and won. Recently, the court ruled that the North Vancouver School Board discriminated against Rick and Michelle's son, Jeffrey, who has dyslexia, when it cut the special needs program Jeffrey needed to learn to read. Rick Moore joins us now from Vancouver. Rick, welcome to Context.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Lorna.
Rick, in a unanimous ruling, the Supreme Court recently decided you should be compensated for the $100,000 you spent private schooling your son. Can you briefly tell us the story that led to this judgment?
When Jeff was in kindergarten, his kindergarten teacher realized he very likely was dyslexic. But the staff at the school said, just wait and see. He's young, he's a December baby, he'll probably catch up. And we were all in favor of putting our faith in the school team. But as time went on and Michelle was volunteering in the classroom, we didn't see any improvement. As a matter of fact, we could see that he was being harmed by not learning to read. And it got to a point where he developed migraines. We took him to a neurologist, and the neurologist said, it's likely if you deal with the learning difficulties, you'll deal with the migraines. And that prompted the district to finally do a psych ed test, and it confirmed that Jeff was in fact severely learning disabled.
You didn't stop. You took remedial action for Jeff, pulled him out and eventually started paying for his education. But you took this through many court levels. Tell us why you fought for contrition.
When Jeff was diagnosed as severely learning disabled, he was supposed to go to a special pull-out program, and unfortunately, at the same meeting where we were supposed to find that he'd been accepted into the program, they informed us they'd shut the program down. And at that point, they said, if there's any way you can put him in this private school that specializes in teaching dyslexic children, that's what you should do. And once again, just doing whatever the school staff recommended, we followed up on that. Unfortunately, the waiting list was full for his grade 3 year, and he had to stay in the public system. He started in the private school in grade 4, and immediately we saw his self-esteem begin to rebound. And it's really when you see your child's self-esteem being destroyed, that's what hurts the most. That's what's the most heartbreaking. By the end of his grade 4 year, we could see he was also learning to read. So when he started his grade 5 year, and it was so obvious he was in the right place, it was obvious that there was a school that knew how to teach him, I got angry one day. And I was thinking of all the other parents who had to watch their children suffer in the public system simply because they couldn't afford an expensive private school. I started making phone calls. I tried to get anybody to take it on, the ombudsman. I wasn't necessarily looking for a legal fight, but one phone call led to another, and that led to community legal assistance and my fantastic, brilliant lawyer, Francis Kelly.
This went all the way to the Supreme Court, and you've stated publicly that now that the court has declared the school board was wrong to discriminate against your disabled child, has the school board expressed any sort of apology to your family and to your son, Jeffrey?
No, it's very disappointing. They made a statement a few days after the judgment, and in essence, they just reiterated the excuses that they'd made before the court, excuses that were rejected as a justification for discriminating against learning disabled children.
I'm curious what difference an apology or a contrition effort would have made.
We'd always hoped that our court battle would prompt the school to recognize that these children are not just being not being taught to read, but they're actually being harmed. And a recognition that the system, because of its inactions or actions, has harmed these children would go a long way to pushing the government, the ministry, to act to start providing the appropriate programs that these kids need in order to learn to read.
I see a silver lining in that you persevered despite not getting an apology. This will make a difference for other families, will it not?
It will make a difference because what the court said was that special needs education services are not a luxury. They're not a disposable luxury. And so the next time a school board wants to cut a valuable program for these children, they will have to make sure that they've done an assessment, that they've taken into account the ramifications on these children, all special needs children, not just learning disabled children, not just children like Jeff, but any special needs child in the system.
You're both a great example. Yourself and Michelle have stuck together as a family with Jeff, and he's working, he's employed, he's higher educated. Thank you very much to the Moore family, to all of you, Rick, for your example and for joining us today.
Thanks for your interest, Lorna.
And now it's time to find out what you think. When I hear a public apology, I always judge the motives. Agree? Disagree? Join that conversation. Give us your vote on that on Facebook or Twitter. Our studio audience is taking a live vote, and we'll have those results in a moment. Coming up, the Canadian Aboriginal Apology for Residential Schools of 2008. And have the words given that day been backed with action? We'll speak with Bishop Mark MacDonald, who oversees Indigenous ministries with the Anglican Church, next.